What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we're doing another deck profile. This time we're looking at Dual Avatar, the next deck I wanted to profile out of Phantom Rage. It's a really cool deck, and I want to preface this video with two specific things, okay? First and foremost, I know this deck isn't that amazing, but I know a lot of people are talking this deck down. They're saying it's really bad, and I don't think it's good. I'm not saying it's good competitively. I don't even know if it's tier 3, okay? I don't even know if it's that good, okay? But I do think this deck really does have potential. I think this deck almost has every tool it needs, except for just like boss monsters, like monsters that really are good fusion cards. And so that's what we're going to be detailing today, talking about my list for right now. I believe this is the best way to play Phantom Rage, or not Phantom Rage, the best way to play Dual Avatar outside of Phantom Rage, immediately out of the new set. And obviously this is subject to change. In fact, we already have 2 support cards confirmed for Blazing Vortex, so we will update the list when those come out. But this is what I think the deck needs to see at the moment. And the other thing I want to tell you was this mat is fucking dope. And if you think it's really clean, you have Girsu on this side looking really cool, even though it's upside down. That's my fault. Forgot to flip that around for the profile, but it's too late now. On the other side is Crusadia Equimax, which is really dope. And yeah, so check out the link in the description. I have a 10% promo code if you want to pick up this mat. And you know, shout out to Charles from Team COG. He is the one who hooked me up with this deal, and you guys up as well. So check out his channel if you haven't yet. For some reason, he's way bigger than me. So if you've seen me but not him, check him out. That'd be awesome. So that's it. Let's jump into this profile. I'm tired of plugging. Plugging is done. All right. I'm sorry. We're gonna move on to the monsters. All right. Starting off with the monsters. Jesus, where am I going? There we go. All right. 3 copies of Dual Avatar Fist Yuhi and 3 copies of Dual Avatar Feet Kokoku, or as I like to call them, Chan and Lee, short for Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee. Get it if you're a Pokemon fan. Get it like Fist, Hitmonchan, Feet, Hitmonlee. Cool. I'm going to be referring them to that for the rest of the profile. Just keep that in mind. They're both really good, honestly. I think right now Yuhi is definitely way better, just because your fusion spell card is like the central piece of the entire archetype, so you really need to get to that. That's what he gets you. And the Kokoku's still really nice, though, because it gets you to all of your traps. So they're both really good. But obviously Yuhi is a little more centric, but you want to see both, to be honest, because you want to be able to fuse with some effect monsters, and so you need these guys to be able to get those off. So very good there. That is literally all you play for actual monsters in the main deck. Other than that, it's just hand traps, because you have to play it. Luckily, this is like a field spell not dot deck, but a field spell deck, so you've got your searchability, you've got your consistency, which means you have a lot of room in the deck to just play stuff like hand traps. So I am playing the Gammas and the Driver. I actually really used to not even like Gamma that much, but now I am very much a fan of Gamma, because I've played a lot of decks as of recently that just really synergize with Gamma. You have an insane fusion spell that you activate all the time with no monsters on the field, and you also activate the field spell to search a monster. Boom, if that tries to get ashed or whatever, you've just got free Gamma Rain and stuff like that. So that's really cool. 3 Ash, 3 Veiler, and then later on we'll get to the impermanence, but just for my OCD's sake, we'll keep those with the traps. So 12 hand traps total. I just wanted a hefty number of hand traps. This deck is really not particularly good at going second, so I wanted to have a hefty number of hand traps to be able to help us assist us in that situation. Specifically, I'm on the Veiler and the impermanences, because this deck really can't out Dragoon at all. Just cannot out Dragoon, I don't think. Actually, maybe it can. Hold on. Hold the phone. Ooh, actually it can out Dragoon, but not consistently. We'll get to that later, though. I just literally had an epiphany about a card, because I'm still new to this deck, so obviously, I'm still learning some of the rulings. But all right, moving on to the spells, though, we have our field spell, Perfect Sync Aun, and the Terraforming. So 4 copies of this. This searches a Dual Avatar monster on activation, so either your fists or your feet, or your Lee or your Chan, as I like to call them. And then also, if you control any Dual Avatar monster, you can just special summon a Dual Avatar token to your field. Just an extra token. It's actually kind of cool. Gives you that because it allows Yuhi to pop something else, because if you don't know, Yuhi has to pop a Dual Avatar monster to search a spell. It can pop himself, but ideally ideally you'd like to leave him on the field, so getting that token is definitely better. So it's kind of just your fodder to pop and then get the search while still keeping him on board. So definitely a very good card. It's one card combo technically in this deck, so you know, you want to open that if you can. Moving on to the actual power card, this is the card the whole deck is kind of based around, Dual Avatar Invitation. This card's really insane. If you don't know what it does, you discard a card to summon as many dual avatar tokens as physically possible, so up to 5 or whatever fills up all your zones. Then you could perform up to 2 fusion summons for a dual avatar monster. So that's what's so insane about this card. It's double fusion. And that's what kind of made this deck seem like kind of crazy. But the problem is, like, the fusions are not that powerful. I think that's just the biggest thing. The deck has consistency, the deck has utility, but it doesn't have much power. And if the deck gets some better fusions down the line, this deck could legitimately be not just like a cool deck, but like literally a meta contender in my eyes, just because of how powerful this card is. So that is dope there. We're going to move on here to our last dual avatar spell, which is Dual Avatar Defeating Evil. This card's really, really cool. It's a quick play that just says target 1 dual avatar monster you control and 1 monster your opponent controls, or actually 1 card your opponent controls, destroy them both. Then, if you destroyed a dual avatar fusion monster with this effect, you can then apply one of the additional effects to either draw a card or banish an additional card from your opponent's graveyard. So a lot of good utility there. I love that it's a quick play spell. This could have easily been a trap, and I'm glad it's not, because this card does help with the big weakness of this deck stinks at going second. So you could summon one of your monsters, like you either Chan or Lee try to do something. If your opponent tries to negate you somewhere, you can then chain this card and then force out another negate, or potentially start breaking through the board, and then draw cards to potentially draw more extenders and stuff. So it's honestly a pretty good card. I like it. It can be a disruption. It can be a card that helps you play going second. I just like the versatility from this card, honestly. And yeah, so definitely a big fan of that card. I really like it at 3. I think not playing it at 3 is a mistake. And then for the rest of the spells are kind of just consistency things. We've got 2 copies of Fusion Deployment. We've got 2 copies of Pot of Desires, and we've got 1 copy of Reinforcement of the Army. These cards are all, I think, make a lot of sense, right? Rhoda, just because you can search either Lee or Chan, which is really good. So if you have one, you always want the other. And then Pot of Desires is also very cool because you play 3 of them with like everything. I don't know if you noticed, but we're on 3 Lee, 3 Chan. I guess it can conflict with the driver, but that's about the only thing that it actually conflicts with. 3 field spell, 3 fusion card, 3 this. I'm just going to tell you right now, if you banish all 3 of this off Desires, you can just fold. You can just tell your opponent they have the duel, because they do. But it is what it is. I still appreciate the +1. It baits a hand trap. It combos really well with Gamma as long as you don't hit the driver with it, because this is like definitely Ash bait for sure. But yeah, it's pretty good. And then Fusion Deployment's the last card. If you want to just go in on the 3rd Fusion Deployment, drop the Desires because you are still scared of like banishing cards, that's totally fine. I wouldn't really knock you for that. And I also wouldn't just knock you for not wanting to play Desires just because of like Gamma, and technically even though it is a 3 of, like, you really don't want to hit the fusion card, but it is what it is. But this card's really cool. So this card actually doesn't find a home in really many decks. I haven't really seen anybody playing this card whatsoever, because it requires you to have a fusion card with a specific fusion name, or a specific monster's name as its material, and then it locks you into fusions. So luckily enough, we do have Empowered Kongyo, who does specifically list Chan as a fusion material, and Post-Blazing Vortex will get a fusion that specifically lists Lee as a fusion material as well. So you could technically just special either of them, and that's actually a really nasty extender. So just because of the sole fact that it only gets Chan at the moment, I wanted to play 2 because it just felt like overkill. I'm just playing too many copies that just get me Chan, and that's it. And like I want, you know what I mean? Like it just seems like overkill. I'm just going to draw like 3 redundant cards in every hand. I'm deciding to play 2. Might be a mistake. I'm not entirely sure, but keep in mind this is also my first iteration of this deck. So obviously we'll learn as we continue to play with it, but this is just early expectations and stuff. Which then takes us to the traps, though. We've got 3 Dual Avatar Compact, 2 Dual Avatar Return, of course the impermanences, we'll put those kind of off to the side here. Okay, so for these guys, they're actually really cool. So Dual Avatar Return essentially is just a Call the Haunted for dual avatar monsters, which is really cool because one of them actually lets you pop a monster when it's special summoned, so that kind of works as a disruption. But also, if you reborn to level 4 or lower dual avatar monsters, so like either the main deck monsters, Chan or Lee, you also get to summon a dual avatar token to your field. So it kind of lets you get a recursion play of summon back Chan, and then Chan already has a token to pop on your next turn to then get his effect to resolve and keep himself on the field. So that's really nice. As well as we have Compact. This can honestly be a one-of, kind of, but I think I like two of it. I like being able to recur in this deck because it's not that powerful, so you might have to be able to pull wins out via the grind game and not overwhelm your opponent, but overwhelm them with resources that continuing to be able to play turn after turn. But Contact's really cool as well, Compact. So this card lets you banish a dual avatar spell or trap from your graveyard, and then literally just applies its effect, which is really cool. So there's a couple different things you could do for utility here. You could banish your fusion spell to then just do the double fusion on your opponent's turn. That's really, really strong, actually. Not a bad play at all. But I also believe because it just copies the effect, you don't have to discard, so that's also a really nice thing there. You could banish this card to then pop a dual avatar monster you control and a card your opponent controls, so then just get other disruption elsewhere, and then also the monster reborn effect. And we're going to get a new trap in Blazing Vortex, so that also will add more utility to this card. I just think this card, like after turn 1, even if the fusion card got negated, you could just do it on your opponent's turn and still be okay. So that's why I wanted to play 3 of this card. I want to see this card because it just feels like the best follow-up play there. And so, yeah, 3 of it for me. I honestly think this should be a higher rarity, not other than a common, but it is what it is, you know? And then obviously the 3 in Perm, rounding out our 12 hand trap lineup. I almost considered trying to play traps in the deck. I was playing 2 Solemn Strike until I decided like Fusion Deployment was just too good an extender to not play. So, yeah. All right, and then we move to our extra deck here. It's going to be pretty standard for the most part because the deck really doesn't do much else outside of its own fusion stuff. So you've obviously got 3 copies of Armored Agio, Armored Ungyo, and 3 copies of Empowered Kongyo. These are all your fusions here. They're all actually, like, they're decent. So like what I say with the deck is that considering the deck has a fusion card that just like essentially for free outside of like the discard to 1.5 cards just gets you double fusion, unfortunately they do have drawbacks. They're not that strong. So this guy, when he's special summon, just lets you destroy a face-up attack position monster, and then if you control a fusion monster that did use an effect monster as material, he gets all dual avatar fusion monsters you control gain 300. Fine, but mainly you're trying to either use him in the grind game to just continually summon him to just continue to pop monsters, as well as like disrupt your opponent by quick summoning him to get that pop as well. So he's actually one of my favorite ones. I think he actually might be my favorite one at this point, but you can't consistently set him up to be a disruption on your opponent's turn, at least going first. So that's the one disappointing part about him. This one is also kind of a letdown in the sense that it is kind of like an impermanence, but it's a little bit of a special impermanence in the fact that it can only impermanence a monster special summon from the extra deck, and he only gains that effect if he was summoned using an effect monster. So again, kind of held back. If you weren't able to make him with an effect monster, he really doesn't do much. He also has like a protection effect, or if like a dual avatar fusion monster would be destroyed, you can destroy another fusion or another dual avatar monster instead. So technically, if you want to keep one alive, you could just trade another one for it. It's fine. It's not amazing, though. They're both kind of underwhelming. And then you have Kongyo. Kongyo's kind of okay. The problem is he just doesn't really represent disruption at all. Now, he has a lot of effects, so I want to make sure I read all these correctly for you guys. Keep in mind, he specifically requires you to use Yuhi as one of the materials, hence it being a fusion deployment target. Also, sorry I have to proxy. This is the only card I don't have for the deck at the moment. If he battles, your opponent cannot activate any cards or effects until the end of the damage step. Also, if he attacks after damage calculation, you can return 1 monster your opponent controls to the hand. That's how this deck has 1 out to Dragoon inherently, is you could attack something other than Dragoon and then just bounce the Dragoon. It's non-targeting bounce, so it would work technically. Still not that amazing, though. And then also when your opponent's spell or trap card or effect is activated that targets this card on the field while you control 2 or more fusion monsters, you can just negate that activation. So technically it is a negate, but it's only for a card that targets, and it's only for cards that target specifically him. So it's fine. He's kind of annoying, like, though, to go in the battle phase for your opponent, because, like, he attacks, your opponent can't do anything, and then he bounces a monster after he attacks. So he does have that nice removal. Like, if his second effect was just like, if your opponent activates an effect once per turn, negate it, I would be all about this card. This card would change this archetype for me indefinitely. Like, I'd feel way better about this archetype, but unfortunately, it's only targeting stuff, which isn't that much. We want to stop our opponent from going wombo combo, not from targeting us. So that's where the deck kind of gets a little underwhelming, but still pretty good nonetheless, because you can just drop 2 of those very easily. And then we just have utility stuff that really we're not going to summon that much, but if you do play Dogmatica, Entis is a nice card to be able to send to punish them, as well as the Cyber Dragon Makaba Core. And I really like this because if somehow it does come up, this deck doesn't really set up a lot of disruption. So this is just a really nice way to just get a free Makaba out on your field during your opponent's turn 1. Or later on, especially if they see what you're playing and they just assume, because a lot of people are like siding the Maximus right now. So if they side it in because they're like, oh, I'm playing against a dual avatar, that's the buy, I'm just going to Maximus them and they can't do anything. And then you just like punish them by dropping Makaba and like turning off their combo, like shutting them down. So it's actually pretty cool to be able to do. And like if you main it, you can also catch them in game 1 if they happen to play it in the main. So that's kind of cool. And then for a couple links, Gravity Controller, if you summon... So specifically, one, this card is like cool because it can actually out specific monsters. But also, if you summon the red guy in the extra monster zone, you could link him off later on for Gravity Controller if you had access to something like the Reborn Trap. And like maybe if you had the Reborn Trap but not the red guy in Grave, or Agio, right? That's his name, Agio. Yeah, Agio. You could put him in Grave, then you'd be able to reborn him to then get his effect to pop something. So it could come up, I don't know, whatever. Like, you have so much extra space in this extra deck, it's crazy. You can play super poly targets if you want. The deck only really locks you into fusion summoning, so as long as you still stay in that, like, you can do anything. So super poly is still a thing, but that's up to you. I have Nightmare Phoenix. And I also have Akashic Magician. Nightmare's just Phoenix just because the deck actually has actually 0 back row removal. So something like there can only be 1, you actually just like lose to. So I don't know. Technically you could be able to... No, actually I don't even think you can get to Phoenix in this deck. Now that I think about it. It's terrible. This deck can't even out there can only be 1. That card just like is auto lose. You need to side for that. And then Akashic Magician. Camera's frozen a little bit. Hold on, give it a sec. There we go. Akashic Magician is just cool because the entire deck is monsters with the same type and attribute. So just easy to make this. And if your opponent puts something in the wrong zone, this could also give you potentially another Dragoon out if they put it in a bad zone. So whatever, it's not really going to come up, but it could theoretically. There's so many other cards you could play in this extra deck. Super poly targets are probably pretty choice just because the deck, this archetype needs some kind of bustedness to take advantage of. Excuse me. So I wouldn't even blame you for that, but that's what I have for right now. And then the last card I want to show you is this, just because I actually got really lucky. I actually pulled this out of an OTS pack from Locals way back. So that's... Oh, actually, no, I got these when I bought the Phantom Rage boxes, so pretty cool. But yeah, the deck's honestly cool, guys. If you like the deck, I highly recommend picking it up, because all it would take is for Konami to make one more volley of like 2 more good fusions, like actually good fusions that have actual strong disruptions, and this deck's actually like a legit thing. It actually does stuff. So I think it's a fun deck for right now. I think you could top a Locals with it, but I don't know. I wouldn't expect to do much better than that at the moment. But it's still a really fun deck, really cool if you like this like fusion aspect of the deck, and your ability to just churn them out every single turn. The deck really does have a decent grind game. Then go for it. It's super cheap. There's a secret rare in this archetype, but it was like $1 to $2. Seriously, it's so cheap, and the set just came out, so don't even worry about the price at all. As long as you have hand traps, you should be good to go. So that's going to do it from here, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. As always, subscribe to the channel if you have not yet, and you want to see more deck profiles from your boy in the future. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Oh, where am I at?